money, foreign aid packages, and the IRS. Unsurprisingly, it starts with the members of the Freedom Caucus. But the CrossFit theropod, Colorado hands-on puppet, Florida Beavis, and the Ohio gym shorts guy are really just the loudest of the grandstanding Plovians. Per Pew Research, the core members of the Holy Inquisition Caucus are aided by a list of influential GOP politicians. Here's the list of their allies. Many are flying under the radar because they are overshadowed by the headline-grabbing loudest screamers. Notably, though, the Pew data was last updated on January 23, 2023, and since the entire GOP voted for Mike Johnson, it's fair to say that they're all somewhat in cahoots supporting the so-called Freedom Caucus. This is where the foreign aid and assistance requests and the counter-proposals become interesting, though. So in order to get there, let's set the stage. Biden has asked Congress for a $106 billion spending package dedicated to foreign aid to provide assistance to the two headline-dominant conflicts. Particularly the humanitarian aid in Gaza is somewhat peculiar because the United States has voted twice against a ceasefire to bring humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. I recorded on this here and here. But moving on. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said that House Republicans will move on a dedicated Israel aid package to assist their war against Hamas in Gaza. But he wants that aid package to be separate from a funding package for Ukraine's fight against Russian invaders. To Johnson, clearly Israel has priority and funding for Ukraine can be discussed at a later time. The translation to this, he wants one to be funded immediately and the other would likely get stalled into eternity. So far, so messy, which is also the state of affairs as far as the funding proposals are concerned internally by the GOP. Because somewhat surprisingly, Republicans can actually not see eye to eye when even warmongers such as Graham, McConnell, and Wicker are in alignment with Ben Cardin, who is the Democratic chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Who would have thought that Graham, McConnell, and Wicker are suddenly dissenting from their Christo-fascist tribe? That comes as somewhat of a surprise. We are indeed living in the Twilight Zone. However, before we turn the lights off completely, there is one thing we need to pay attention to in addition to everything else that's going on. The proposal to fund foreign aid is established by reducing the budget for the IRS. Although rumors are that any attempt to cut the IRS budget are dead on arrival at the Senate level, we cannot discount the Republicans' attempt to neuter an agency that has expressed their goals for 2024 to come after people who hold Republicans near and dear, and vice versa. After all, the IRS announced that among their 2024 goals is to investigate and potentially audit 1,600 millionaires in the United States. Collectively, they owe hundreds of millions in taxes, and it's the same millionaires and corporations who will apply whatever pressure necessary to disable a better funded IRS. Regardless of the lives impacted, their wealth is a priority. Now, neutering the IRS enhances the reality that those who have the most and pay the least also have the best legal representation and lobbyist representation to ensure that it stays that way. The issue, which is likely what they're banking on, is that reducing IRS funding is trivial when compared to the aid that is desperately needed. After all, if the money is available, we have a moral obligation to assist those who are in need. The bottom line is that Republicans may force yet another way of feeding the wealthy while starving the rest. Now, is there a solution to this mess? Yes, but not in a timely manner. It starts actually right now with your local elections on November 7. This is where our responsibility to bring new faces into politics and vote sweepingly blue becomes readily apparent in the next couple of days. The continuation will then be in 2024. Ultimately, elections do have consequences, and we do really, at this point in time, need to remember that before we fall apart.